I like Dr. Powell. Because I'm a mechanical engineer, I wanted to know the breakdown of a cell. I didn't want to hear it break down because something happened. I wanted to know what the mechanics were. And when I spoke before about the calcium penetration, that was Dr. Powell's work. And what Dr. Powell's recently done is he tried to summarize all the data that was in the marketplace to try to understand really what it is that's really happening in our environment. And actually, one of the most significant, in my opinion, and sitting on top of his chart, is the impact of the brain. You have a cell phone that the manufacturer says can't be more than 3/8 to 1 inch from the head. I've never used a phone that way. It's like I use it right against my head. That's 1.6 watts per kilogram hitting your head. And so when you hear about brain cancers, or when you hear about emotional behaviors, ADHD, Alzheimer's, all of these illnesses have been linked to exposures that are excessive. These excessive body responses are impacting our environment and the way we live. I remember looking at some research a couple of years ago, and they said that cancer of the brain has declined in time over the last 10 years. That can't be true. So I went and looked at the data, and it was true on the average. The cancer rate for the brain actually declined. And I further looked at the data, and I found frontal lobe cancer has increased 2% over a 10-year period. On the average, it didn't go up. But guess what? The frontal lobe is where there's the most impact to the body from a cell phone. The frontal lobe is where the brain cancers occur. The frontal lobe is where the control of human emotions occur. So many of the body functions that are being impeded have been found to directly correlate to the exposure we get from our cell phones. And also funny they talk about cancers overall declining in time. And within the data, if you look at it, it says the link between smoking a cigarette and lung cancer has dropped by 50%. By 50% in 10 years. That's good. I stopped smoking many, many years ago. Most of us probably did. I'm not going to kill myself smoking a cigarette that has arsenic in it. So that was true. But it's also true at the same time period. There's been a 50% decline, I think, in the fertility of male and females. And so you go into a doctor's office and you have your laptop, your tablet, or your cell phone in your pocket, and you ask the doctor, how come we can't have babies? There's a direct link between the 25% I told you about before. We know for sure that's an exposure that occurs. And in fact, with this book my son and I wrote, we actually had the most prominent radiologist in the country. He was like the first radiologist in the country. A brilliant, brilliant man. And we were debating ionized versus non-ionized. And I said that you can actually influence the womb. You have a cell phone in your back pocket. How far do you think it is to the egg? Not very far. So you could have a 12-year-old girl that has mutated cells from her cell phone, and you won't know about it in 4, 5, 10 years, 15 years, depending on when she gets married. And I said, there's a potential that mutated cell can propagate into subtending generations. He scoffed at me. And then about 2 years later, after he read the book, he calls me up and he said, I just had a young woman in my office. She had a cell phone, a laptop attached at her hip. And she just had a baby, died almost immediately. Had very weird cancers. And he said, this doesn't substantiate your claim, but it certainly gives you pause for trying to listen to this. Dr. Powell, he talked about it, and he says 3 generations from now, we don't have children. We won't be able to produce them because the exposures are such that they really do affect our ability to propagate. I don't believe that. He does. I believe in statistics. The question is how many girls are going to put a cell phone in their pocket and have mutated cells? How many guys are going to put it? Some will, not everyone. So I don't ascribe to that prediction. But if it was true that every child, male and female, put a cell phone in their pocket, there is a probability of influencing the eggs and the sperm. So where does this all go? I'm not sure. Hormonal. I was talking with some of you before. Turns out that electromagnetic radiation hypersensitivity, and we're going to talk about that in a minute more, is influencing the pituitary gland, controlling our hormones. Women are far more hormone-based than men. 80% of electric hypersensitive are women. And so all of a sudden we're seeing correlations of exposures that we haven't seen before. I hate the word oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is an imbalance of antioxidants in the body. I hate it because that doesn't characterize the impact of irradiation in our bodies. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But most of the industry talks about oxidative stress. They think you can improve the antioxidant balance and you can get better. Absolutely farthest thing from the truth. It takes far more complex ways of treating those who are exposed with this than ever before. And I'm going to go into that a little bit. I basically caught most of what his points were. But Dr. Powell, again, I love the man because he's been so effective at becoming prominent with this subject matter when only 5 years ago it didn't exist. So I really do appreciate his work.